in pieces by machine so they can be plowed under to add humus to the soil. Now it's spring, and nature in her wondrous system of automation is working her annual miracle in the vineyards. But here, as with so many automation systems, the help of human hands is needed. Women, with their deft, sure touch, tie the canes left from the vines to the trellis wires, so the crop to come will be well supported. Meanwhile, a useful word in this industry where varied activities must be carried on at the same time. Meanwhile, the soil that was plowed toward the vines for winter protection is thrown back toward the middle of the rows. With spring in the air, buds begin to swell and new shoots appear. By the end of May, the new grapes, small and green, are forming. And in the spring, while producing vines are flourishing, the winery laboratory prepares new grapevines for planting during the following year. Some of the better varieties are grafted by skilled technicians. Cuttings of the variety to be propagated and cuttings of the rootstock are selected. Then, one end of each is notched for grafting. The ends are carefully fitted. And the end with the bud that will grow is protected by a coating of wax. Grafted canes are then placed in boxes of prepared soil where they begin to grow and put out roots. Next, the newly rooted vines are planted in nursery plots where they are carefully tended all summer long. In the fall, the new vines are dug up and stored for the winter. With the coming of spring, ground for the new vineyard is plowed deeply to put topsoil down where the roots will grow. The ground is leveled and marked into rows. Each new vine is carefully inspected. Then, spaced exactly, the vines are planted. And finally, with a stake to support each budding vine, a new vineyard is born. And in 2 years, the vines will begin to bear fruit. This regular renewal process assures a continuity of fine future vintages. And the methods perfected through the years have given the winery the unique distinction of producing the best of both native and European wine grapes. Now back to our story of the producing vineyards. Nature has been working her wonders. Grapes, Delawares, and Catawbas are in bloom. When the leaves are well developed, they must be protected from blights and insects. A scientific program of spraying is followed throughout the summer. European varieties, like this young German Riesling, must have special attention. Incidentally, quality control from vine to wine is the proud responsibility of all who serve, and no task, large or small, is slighted. As July goes by, plump grapes are forming in heavy clusters. In August, before harvest time, another activity, preparing for the season to come. Plows push the soil toward the vines for protection during the next winter. Now the climax of the growing season approaches. By September, the grapes have colored well and have ripened progressively. First, Delaware, Duchess, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Chardonnay, Saibo, Ives, Johannisberger Riesling, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Catawba. Riesling grapes are allowed to become overripe on the vine so as to concentrate flavor and quality before harvest time. Now the harvest, the crop, the vintage. Traditionally, the winery's grapes have been gathered each year by local farm families. Many have small vineyards on their own farms, and old and young understand the work and respond to the call as soon as the early grapes are ready. All through the latter part of September and the first part of October, the many varieties are harvested progressively according to their ripening season. Nature has finished her work in the vineyards. Now she will play her part in the age-old process of wine making. After inspection, the grapes fall into a crusher where the stems are removed automatically. The crushed grapes are pumped into a stirring kettle. Then they are funneled on cloths and formed into layers between racks on a press platform. The free flow is set aside for later use in wine blending. When a whole stack of layers is built, light pressure is applied, then a hydraulic press completes the operation. When the flow stops, pomace or residue is removed to be used for fertilizer. Then the new young wine with specially selected yeast goes through a fermentation process, a natural process assisted by natural yeasts. From the fermenters, the various wines are piped to tubs and casks for settling and clarification. Throughout this period, laboratory specialists make regular tests with samples from every cask. Nothing is hurried, nothing is forced. Nature herself is allowed all the time she needs in making of the wines. The ultimate test is tasting by experts. This winery is the only American winery to have the services of 3 French-trained winemakers who plan the correct blending and test the bouquet. After blending, the table and dessert wines are aged in smaller casks, a process that in some cases goes on for several years. When they have reached their peak of excellence, table and dessert wines are bottled, capped, and labeled. Machines and the skilled hands of devoted workers. Many are members of families who have served the winery for 3 generations. Capped and labeled, the bottles of table and dessert wines are packed and sent to one of the still wine storage caves to await shipment. Champagne, on the other hand, requires a special handling procedure. With champagne, the aging is done in the bottle. During the spring following the vintage, champagne is bottled with carefully calculated amounts of yeast and sugar. Tightly sealed and piled in the champagne cellars, where it stays from 1 to 7 years to develop the champagne flavor. This is one of the most important factors in making top quality champagne. Indeed, without this bottle aging process, it would only be a sparkling wine. Millions of bottles of champagne in stacks marked for type and vintage are stored in cool cellars to lie undisturbed until the years have brought excellence to its peak. In this superior method of aging in the bottle, the yeast cells settle naturally on the side of the bottle. Inspection by experts determines when the yeast cells have finished their work. With the champagne at its highest quality and ready for the market, it is started through the clarifying process. It used to be that champagne was clarified by turning the bottles in the rack and finally drawing the corks, letting outrushing wine discharge the residue of yeast cells, then recorking the bottles. In the modern winery's procedure, the bottles are first taken to a cooling room. Then the bottles are opened and the champagne goes under pressure into a tank where it's filtered. The bottles used in the aging process are washed and sterilized. Then the champagne is rebottled in the same bottles under pressure. It is at this point that champagne is made into brut or extra dry, and provision is made for bottling in sizes, from splits to double magnums. Now the permanent natural cork is forced into the neck of the bottle by machine, but skilled workers assist with the devotion to service that is characteristic throughout the winery. Wiring, to hold the corks firmly in place, used to be a tedious operation done entirely by hand. Now, automatic devices do all the work. Next, the filled, corked, and wired bottles are rinsed. Then the labeling, a much different operation than it was when the foreman's grandfather, the winery's first French winemaker, began work here in 1870. Dressed elegantly with labels, a special neck cap, and a neckband, the champagne is wrapped in protecting paper and packed in cartons. A final operation with some very skillful handwork. With storage and shipment, the winery's share of the work of winemaking is complete. Wine is an integral part of gracious living, makes a meal more glamorous and food more appetizing. Wines for every social occasion, wines to tempt the taste buds of the gourmet. To the hostess, the use of wine suggests lovely table settings to delight the eyes of guests. In restaurants and clubs, a display of exotic foods is made more attractive with bottles of various wines and champagnes. Wines lend grace to formal dinners and those informal visits of friends. Wines for special flavor. Shrimp with sherry, filet of sole bonne femme with chablis, coq au vin with claret, filet of beef bourguignon with burgundy, ham basted with tokay, jellied cherries port, ice cream with cream sherry, peaches with pink champagne. There's no limit to the happy combinations of food and wine. Traditional